Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3784, and today's date is November 28th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Trump Confirms the Economic Plan, Tariff System Will Remove the Income Tax. Let's talk about our health. In recent clinical trial this year, women who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw an average of 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth, 9% improvement in skin elasticity, and 29% book in skin hydration, proving collagen can visibly strengthen and rejuvenate skin from within. This is why I use today's sponsor, BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen, and I'm obsessed with the results it's given my skin. BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen helps supercharge my skin health using 5 premium types of collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, more hydration, fewer fine lines, and a youthful glow. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissues on top of my skin health. For a limited time, you can grab a bag of BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen for 51% off only at healthwithx22.com. Plus, you also receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free express shipping with your order. Once again, go to healthwithx22.com to get this deal now, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, they are now having a major problem. Now, remember, their entire goal was to down the economy around Trump, blame it all on him, and they set it up all to do that. And what happened was Trump came out of the gate and he went very quickly and created the parallel economic system, which is now competing with the central bank system. And this poses a major problem for the deep state, the central bankers, because once again, there was not supposed to be a competing system. Because once again, the central bankers were hoping that it would take Trump a long time to create the tariff system, a long time to bring manufacturers back to this country, a long time to get investments back into this country. And they were hoping, using the judiciary, they would be able to stop him every step of the way. But that has failed. And remember, if it was just the central bank, they would be able to bring down the economy around Trump and they would just blame it on him. But if they bring the economy down now, this is a major problem, because the rest of the world would fall and the United States wouldn't, because Trump has the income coming in from the parallel economic system. So this poses a major problem for the central bankers. And I do believe this is one of the reasons why they started to back off in basically raising or keeping the rates steady. Now, the central banks around the world, they are now dropping the rate, because if they continue down this path, the people of all the different countries around the world would see that, why are our countries falling apart and why is the United States still doing well? Now, remember, I do believe that Trump is still pulling us out of the recession that the Biden/Obama administration has created. And Trump now has pretty much confirmed where all this is leading. Remember, he's not starting a parallel economic system just to start a parallel economic system. He's starting it to actually transition us away from the central bank system, transition us away from the internal revenue to the external revenue. And what does that really mean? It means we will no longer borrow the currency from the central bank system. What else does that mean? If we're not borrowing the currency from the central bank system, that means we don't have to pay income tax. And Trump, during an interview, actually confirms all this. He says, soon, we will not have to pay income tax, or maybe not pay it at all, because that's where all this is leading. Because once again, our founding fathers from the very beginning, they never wanted a private central bank system in here. They never wanted the people to borrow currency. Remember, the currency that we're using today does not belong to you. I know people think it does. It doesn't. You are borrowing that currency. It actually belongs to the corporation that is creating it. That is the Federal Reserve. It's not part of the government. It's a separate entity. It's a corporation. And they are loaning us this currency. Here, use this currency. You can use it for commerce. Go ahead. Oh, by the way, you're borrowing it. Remember that? So there's interest on that. It's almost like if a loan shark says, listen, you need some money. Don't worry, I can get some money here. But again, there's 20%, 30%, 40% interest on this money. And you don't own this, by the way. You're going to have to pay us back. And if you don't pay us back, we're going to come and break your legs. This is why they created the IRS in this country, because those people that aren't paying them back, well, they needed thugs to collect the money. And you can see this is exactly what they've done. But like we said from the very, very beginning, we are still coming out of the recession that the Biden administration has created, and we're coming out of it pretty darn fast. And I do believe in the year 2026, we're going to start to see things really start to turn around, because you have to remember, Trump had to actually counter the job losses that the Biden/Obama administration has created. They're the ones who created. Remember, their job numbers are fake. So what he's done is he brought all this investment and he set it all up. The manufacturers are coming back, but can he stop the layoffs that are happening right now? No, everything was put into motion. The job numbers were fake. And we're going to see that for a little bit, and then things are going to start to turn around. And I do believe we're going to see the turnaround coming very, very soon in 2026. The Gobisi letter on X put this out and said, alternative data shows U.S. layoffs are surging. Job cuts tracked by Microedge jumped 70,000 month on month in October to 154,000, in the highest in at least 2 years. Monthly job cuts have now exceeded 100,000 for the fifth time this year. At the same time, layoff announcements compiled by Challenger Gray spiked to 99,000 to 153,000, the highest since March. This also marks the highest monthly number for any October in 22 years, all while employees notified of mass layoffs via war notices tracked by Revelio rose 11,912 last month to 43,626, the second highest in at least 2 years. U.S. layoffs are accelerating, and soon the layoffs are going to start to reverse, because you're going to see a lot of companies, well, all of a sudden they're coming back to the United States. The manufacturers are being built. And as Trump weans us off the central bank and removes the income tax, what we're going to see is people are going to have a lot more buying power, especially with energy prices coming down. Remember, everything that we're seeing right now is a leftover from the Biden/Obama economy. Remember, their entire mission was to basically down the economy. That's where all of this was headed. And Trump, because he created the parallel economic system, he is now countering what they've been trying to do right now. And when you look at the global central banks right now, they've pivoted. The Gobisi letter once again says over 90% of developed and emerging central banks have cut rates or kept them the same over the last 6 months, near the highest since the 2020 pandemic. In other words, less than 10% of world central banks have recently hiked their rates. This percentage has persisted above 90% for 12 months. Such an elevated reading has been seen only a few times over the last 35 years. Over the last 2 years, global central banks have cut rates 316 times, the highest reading in at least 25 years. To put this into perspective, there were 313 cumulative cuts in 2008 to 2010 in response to the financial crisis. Global monetary policy is easing. And you can see the central banks, they pretty much step back in creating currency. The balance sheets of the Fed, the ECB, the BOJ, the BOE, and the central banks of China, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, and India as percent of GDP. The major central banks around the world have been unwinding their balance sheets for the past few years, even the Bank of Japan, which got a late start in 2024. And you can see that they're doing this because inflation was picking up, and they were going to use this to bring down the economic system. They were going to use the interest rates to collapse the system. And the problem right now is that Trump has created the parallel economic system. And the parallel economic system is building and competing with the central bank system here in the United States. Remember, let's talk about our health. In recent clinical trial this year, women who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw an average of 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth, 9% improvement in skin elasticity, and 29% book in skin hydration. proving collagen can visibly strengthen and rejuvenate skin from within. This is why I use today's sponsor, BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen, and I'm obsessed with the results it's given my skin. BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen helps supercharge my skin health using 5 premium types of collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, more hydration, fewer fine lines, and a youthful glow. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissues on top of my skin health. For a limited time, you can grab a bag of BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen for 51% off only at healthwithx22.com. Plus, you'll also receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free express shipping with your order. Once again, go to healthwithx22.com to get this deal now, or just click the link in the description. The Federal Reserve is the main central bank that is pretty much driving everything around the world. And if they collapse the rest of the world, they don't collapse the United States, and the United States is still operational because of the parallel economic system, this is going to be a major, major problem for the deep state players, the central bankers. And I do believe this is why they've basically backed off of what they were trying to do, because they didn't expect Trump to build the system the way he built it and counter everything that they're trying to do. Now, like we said from the very, very beginning, Trump is not just building a tariff system just to bring in a couple of billion here and there and just say, okay, look, hey, we got tariffs coming in. He's building a parallel economic system to go up against a central bank. So eventually what's going to happen is he's going to wean us off and transition us away from the central bank system. And that what that means is that we will no longer borrow currency from the central bank because we'll be taking currency in externally. And since we're taking currency in externally, we will no longer pay the central bank internally because we're not borrowing that currency. Yes, we still have to pay back the debt and all that kind of other stuff, but I do believe there might even be an audit. We might see some criminal activity within the central bank, and maybe all this debt that we're looking at right now is not actually we the people's debt, because I do believe a lot of it was probably created via criminal activity. But if you notice, step by step, what Trump is doing right now, he is getting people used to, hey, we're going to move you away from the central bank and you're going to pay less and less taxes. This is why he started with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, because he knows eventually what's going to happen. He will start to step this up as the parallel economic system accelerates, which we're already starting to see this. And he was being interviewed, and he actually confirms all of this. And he said that eventually what's going to happen is that we're going to completely cut income tax due to tariff revenue. Take a listen to what he said here.
Couple of years, I think we'll substantially be cutting, and maybe cutting out completely, but we'll be cutting income tax. Could be almost completely cutting it because the money we're taking in is going to be so large. And yet, other countries who have been ripping us off for many, many years, they've just been ripping us to shreds.
So when you really look at this, you could see the entire plan is to do what? Remove the central bank system, which means if we're not paying income tax anymore, we're no longer borrowing currency from the central bank and we're paying off the central bank, that means the buying power is going to come back to the people. If the buying power comes back to the people, what is going to be our currency? I do believe we're going to be going back to the Constitution. We're going back to the gold standard. Yes, stablecoin, cryptocurrency will be involved in all of this. And once the people get the buying power back and energy becomes, very, very low, the cost of energy becomes very, very low, we're going to see the economy really start to pick up. And yes, you're going to see more and more jobs created because all this works together. And as we move forward, we're going to see a boom like we've never seen before. And this is why Trump has said we're going to be entering the golden age, because the golden age is when we get all our buying power back. The golden age is when we can actually produce a penny and a nickel because the currency is actually worth something. So what do I see happening? I do believe, and this is my personal opinion, I do believe you're going to see alternative currencies really start to ramp up. I mean, right now they tried to bring cryptocurrency down. They threw a lot of paper at Bitcoin to try to bring the price down, which they did, just like they do with gold. They use the paper markets to bring the price down. And you can see cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is already starting to move up again. I think the central bank and all the players, they're losing the power that they once had. And as Trump continually builds the parallel economic system and tells the people that this is the direction that we're going to head in, more and more people are going to wake up, and more people are going to see that, wait a minute, the fiat currency that we have today, this is worth absolutely nothing. It's borrowed currency. It's an instrument of debt. And people are going to start to realize that the real currency is gold, it's silver, it's copper, it's cryptocurrency. And I do believe what you're going to see is you're going to see the alternative currencies really start to move up, especially when Trump starts to move us away from the central bank system. And he's going to do it step by step, because think about it. As we move away from the central bank system and saying, okay, we don't need to borrow currency anymore from the central bank, we can use it from the tariff system. Well, the central bank, they're losing their strength, because their strength comes from the governments, the people of the country borrowing the currency. If we're no longer borrowing that currency and we're getting our income and paying for things via a different source, this is going to be a major problem for the central bankers, because it means that they're losing power. We're not using them the way we used to. And the corruption, the deep state players, they just don't have an open credit card to borrow as much as they want. There's going to be checks and balances. This is why Doge has been put into place, because they're going to watch everything that is going on. Where's the money going? How much is being spent? Just like a corporation. They watch every single penny of where it's going. Maybe not the banks, but corporations that are on the up and up. Because again, you could see that the country for a very long time, because we had this open-ended credit card, nobody was keeping track because they didn't want to keep track. And now everything is about to change. And as we wean ourselves off the central bank system, what are we going to see? We're going to see our buying power slowly come back. Yes, energy sales are going to drop. And as Trump removes us from the chains of the income tax, this is when people really start to see the buying power come back. And I do believe as the tariff system builds, you're going to see him say, okay, listen, those people that are making, under 50 or maybe under 100, I don't know what the exact number is going to be. He's going to say, you people no longer have to pay the income tax. He's working backwards. When the central bank system was first created, they work from the top down. Trump is going to work from the bottom up, giving the power back to the people who are at the lower end, the poor, the lower middle class. And this is going to allow them to get off of government dependency. And when more and more people come off of government dependency, it means the government doesn't have to shell out all this money, which is a huge savings. And these people will be working. Their buying power will be back. And they'll feel much better. Remember, there was a study that was done in the UK. If you keep people dependent on the government and you just give them money, they become lazy. They don't want to work. All of this is going to change now. And think about it. We had something like 42 million people on SNAP. This is going to be cut down quite a bit. I mean, yes, we're going to get rid of all the fraud and all the other people, but think about it. All those people that are going to go back to work and those people that are going to be earning a living, you're going to see the dependent on welfare, dependent on SNAP, dependent on all these things is all of a sudden just going to disappear. And he's working from the bottom up because the central bank worked from the top down. So he's giving the majority of the people their power back, their economic power. And this is just the beginning. And as we enter 2026, it's just going to get better and better as time goes on. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and it's supposed to be prepared. Thanks a lot.